It's a wonderful Wednesday morning. Good morning. Welcome to Sports Central. It's live and exclusive to Spectrum Television. My name is Isaac, and we are back to talk about the biggest stories making rounds in this very exciting industry called sports. Well, there's a lot on the plate this morning. We'll take a look at the latest events and, of course, the stories from the next two-level competitions, one in France, and, of course, talk about the one in Argentina. We'll take a look at what's happening in the Middle East, Abu Dhabi, particularly in Qatar, rather. We'll talk about how the ladies have been faring so far, so good in the Qatar Open. Well, we talk basketball this morning as well. The latest stories from the NBA. Well, the Milwaukee Bucks were in action against Boston Celtics. We'll tell you about how things went down at the end of the day. We'll talk about football. The UEFA Champions League night went down last night, and there was a lot to talk about. We'll take a look at PSG and how it was deja vu for them. Again, we'll talk about AC Milan as well and how they went to get a victory against Tottenham Hotspur. What these and many more will form the crux of the conversation with you this morning. And of course, before we get into all of this talk, let's take you through some news stories and sports wrap-up. It's time. Welcome. Well, we set sail from tennis this morning. In his first competitive match since the Australian Open, Daniil Medvedev battled back from a set down to defeat Alejandro Davidovich Fokina on Tuesday night at the ABN AMRO Open. The sixth seed earned a 4-6, 6-2, 6-2 victory, turning the match around by winning 9 of 10 games after falling behind at 1-0 in the second set. Medvedev improved his record to 6 wins and 2 losses on the season, with runs to the Australian Open third round and the Adelaide International 1 semi-finals in his first 2 events. He will next face Botic van der Zandschulp or Quinton Hallis, with third seed Felix Auger-Aliassime, a potential quarterfinal opponent. Well, elsewhere, Stefanos Tsitsipas shook off some early struggles to make an ultimately confident start to life at this AMRO Open campaign. On Tuesday, too, with the top-seeded Greek defeating Emir Rosvori 7-5, 6-1 in Rotterdam. Tsitsipas was greeted with an early barrage of clean hitting from the world number 52 Rosvori at the indoor ATP 500 event. 24-year-old's next test in Rotterdam, where he reached the final in 2022, will be a second-round clash against Yannick Sinner or Benjamin Bonzi. Moving on, let's talk about the series from Argentina. Dominic Thiem got off the mark for the 2023 ATP Tour season with a quality win on Tuesday night at the Argentina Open. The former world number 3 defeated 7th seed Alex Morgan 7-6, 6-3 in Buenos Aires, breaking through in his 5th match of the year. Next up for Thiem is Peruvian qualifier Juan Pablo Varillas, a 6-2, 7-5 winner against Joe Souza early on Tuesday. The third seed Lorenzo Musetti is a potential third-round opponent at the ATP 250 event. Well, let's travel to the Middle East and tell you that Petra Kvitova of the Czech Republic yesterday extended her love affair with Doha as she beat China's Zhang Shuwei in straight sets to reach the second round of the Qatar Total Energies Open. A 2-time champion here, Kvitova posted a 22nd win at the Khalifa Tennis and Squash Complex, the most by any player in the Qatari capital. Elsewhere, Daniel Collins won against Ellis Mertens 6-4, 7-6 on Tuesday afternoon. She will next play top seed Iga Swiatek in the next round of the competition. Let's talk about basketball. The Milwaukee Bucks were pushed all the way by the Boston Celtics, missing 4 starters, ultimately coming away with a 131-125 victory at home, with Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown, Marcus Smart, and Al Horford all out. Derek White had 27 points, 12 assists, and 3 steals, while Malcolm Brogdon added 26 points off the bench in a valiant effort. But the heroics from the Bucks' All-Star duo pulled them across the line with 40 points, 7 assists, and 3 steals for Jrue Holiday, while the big man Giannis Antetokounmpo racked up 36 points, 30 rebounds, and 9 assists. The Bucks were on a record of 40 wins and 17 losses, and now just half a game behind the Celtics with a record of 41 wins and 17 losses in the race for the league's best record. Well, finally coming back home, the NFF Executive Committee have approved the hostel accommodation and 2 football pitches for the team. Well, the story is that the NFF has approved the construction of hostel accommodation and football pitches after its executive meeting on Monday. This was revealed in a communique by the NFF Communications Department following a meeting of the NFF executives at the NFF Secretariat in Abuja. It was revealed that the project will be funded by the residual funds from FIFA. Well, these are the stories we're tracking right now. We'll take another short break. When we come back, we'll get into the talk of the day. We'll have Bled who came to the conversation, and together, you know what we do? We do justice to what's at the plate. Please stick around. Right back in the jiffy.
Which is the only one allowed by Constitution. Our governors have to share police power with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police. We have the Nigerian police, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police.
My Lord, I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My Lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of you.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by Constitution. Our governors have to share police power with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police.
No, my Lord, I want to say something. Here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My Lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of you.
He did not.
My Lord, the matters council is relating the evidence in our.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord. These cases are in court, my Lord. I'm just reminding your Lordship.
My Lord, sorry, my Lord, I think I'll be in court again.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. for Legally Speaking.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyeka every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, tell the African story.
Its conclusion. Davidovich Fokina holds his nerve. Well, not quite sure what the short ball was all about. It got what it deserved. Medvedev finally converts. It was pretty good though. Not a good sense for the number 6 seed back in business in this first round match. Medvedev here in Rotterdam was made to work hard by an inspired Davidovich Fokina, particularly in the first set, but he will be pleased to get his campaign off to a positive start into the second round.
Up-to-date information
Almost looking
from issues on politics,
Hello, Nigeria.
ready off the backhand and forehand
security,
and flatten out both.
education, health, lifestyle, and so much more. Join Janice Kobum and Uyai Anyeka every weekday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Rise and Shine Daily, exclusive on Spectrum Television.
Nigerian police force, which is the only one allowed by cross them. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the matters counsel is leading the evidence in our matter.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. for Legally Speaking.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
Blinded.
Hello, good morning and welcome to an exciting day to talk sports. My name is Blyden Nukem and it's Sports Central. We're looking at the very best stories that's making rounds in the world of sports. Yesterday was an exciting day for many lovers, having that momentum to talk about the very best of things and the excitement that comes with love. But capping it up with what the event would be today, we'll be looking at the big stories from tennis and NBA, as well as outlined from FIBA and the excitement that's happening in the world of sports. My name is Blyden Rukemegena. I have Marizona for company.
What a day to be alive, Blyden. Good morning. And I feel excited, actually. Last night was Valentine's Day, but Champions League night as well for lovers of football, particularly. We saw PSG and Bayern Munich, a deja vu, a repeat of 2020 final of the competition. The same man that scored the goal 3 years ago for them was the same person that scored for them, last night. It was a good game to see. And sadly, PSG, despite getting the biggest names in football, are still unbeaten, are still, winless in the last 3 games, and that shows quality of the Bayern Munich side. Fantastic day to be back alive, Blyden. Good morning. Fantastic day to be back alive. We'll get to talk about football stories, but let's kick the moment going straight to the Middle East, finding out what's happening at the Total Energies Open. It has to be the event in Doha. Exciting stories in the world of tennis. The big names are turning up, showing class and showing dominance. But it had to be the name Daria Kazatkina, who had an early win in this one, in the round of 32. It was 7-6, 6-2 against Marino. But some of the top stars also showed some dominance and class. You're talking about Maria Sakkari, who also had a good win, though she struggled a bit. Took about 2 hours for her to get a win against an uprising star, Qi Wang Zheng, the Chinese. Marizona, what has been the excitement so far in Doha? Round of 18, the girls are doing the bit they can to get the result, and the excitements are up already. I prefer to call them the ladies, particularly. It was good to see Kazatkina crossover to the next round of the competition, but in the benches also was a good performance the night. She was good and qualified for the next round. Well, I'd love to talk about Pliskova and how she got a victory yesterday against Zhang Shuwei, the Chinese lady. Was a one-sided encounter, dominant win, particularly for, Pliskova, who's been in and around the scene for quite a while, has a record of 6 wins and 2 losses. So far, so good this year, and kind of spells the quality that she's brought into the new year. Clearly fantastic, if you ask me. And then we saw her performance at the Australian Open, the first Grand Slam of the year. She showed lots of class, she showed energy, and of course was that kind of player that we're expecting her to be this year, and it was a good way to get herself back on track. Daniel Collins was also a winner, on the nights particularly. And then she faces Ego Swiatek in a marquee, third round clash. Shows quite exciting for me, Blind. I'm looking forward to seeing how this thing's turned out. But for Collins to get the better of Elise Mertens shows you how bad Mertens have been for the past couple of seasons. Elise Mertens 2-3 years ago would come through in a fantastic fashion, but lately it's been a downturn in terms of form for her. She's not been able to put up a good performance, until even in doubles competitions, particularly. She's partnered with one of the biggest names in tennis, but she's not just been able to get over the line, and that's a sad thing. But kudos to the winners, Pliskova, Bencic, Kasatkina, and the rest of them, Blyden.
Let's talk about Daniela Collins, who's about to face Iga Swiatek in the next round. The concept would be about the phenomenal identity that's happening with Daniela Collins. Look, last season, she got to the Australian Open final. This season, she didn't participate in the Australian Open. Her stocks seem to be falling in terms of the rankings. Ranked 47 right now in the world, a player that got into the top 10. And it's been quite concerning for her these days because we've not seen her really perform just as she performed last year. But now she's moved ahead after beating Elise Martin. Decent win for her, top-ranked or top-quality performer, I must say, for Collins. But now she's going to meet Iga Swiatek. Let's talk about it. Swiatek, decent player, world number 1. What's going to happen in this one? What are the opportunities for Collins in this one?
I think it's going to be a true test of her quality. Talk about Daniel Collins, because like you mentioned, last year she was one of the biggest performers until rose up to the top 10 in the WTA rankings, and then at some point was on a 13-game winning streak. I remember that point where she was winning tour level competitions, so back-to-back, particularly. That was her major Achilles heel last season. I'm looking forward to the new season. She's begun the season on a fine note. This is her first competition since the Australian Open, particularly, and that makes a lot of sense for me. But I think all of that is going to be tested when she faces Iga Swiatek. Well, for Iga, she never had a fine start to life this year. She was expected to go all out and win the Australian Open because of the kind of quality we saw her put up last year. But it was never the case, particularly. So it clearly shows you that Swiatek is beatable. And you keep talking about the book, How to Beat Iga Swiatek. I think that book has been released several editions, and I think it's making sense because now she looks predictable, her game looks beatable, and that's been the story over time. But I think Daniel Collins will test her quality and test her resurgence when she faces Swiatek in the next round of this competition.
Well, sadly, not many people have seen the answers to that book because each time the answer comes out, Iga Swiatek comes with something new, showing dominance. Elise Martin did her bit in the last competition she took on Iga Swiatek, but we're expecting to see a definitely new Iga Swiatek. But now, Marizona, let's conclude the WTA competition with this one. Paulo Badassa was beaten by Haddad Maia in this particular competition, round of 32. Paulo Badassa, a top seed tennis player, look at the ranking, in the top 5 ranking, but Haddad Maia, the Brazilian, has been on the rise. And such peculiarity and intent has been for Haddad Maia. Talk to us about what she brings to the table, the opportunities and her rise moving forward.
I think for Paulo Badassa, first up, she's been in and around the scene, broke into the top 5 last year, was a good performer, was consistent. That was one key feature of a game that was added to her profile last year, was consistent. So we saw her on different tour level competitions. She got wins and racked up those numbers as much as possible. But it's just early days for her this season. We shouldn't really talk about Paulo Badassa yet because I want to see how she performs across tour level competitions, say 5, 6, 7 tour level competitions in the next couple of months. And that's what for Beatriz Haddad Maia, one of the biggest exports from the South American scene, a Brazilian particularly. She's gradually building those blocks of consistency. She wants to become a top level player in the next couple of days. We barely see players from the South American now get consistent, and she's trying to build that level of consistency, which for me it makes a lot of sense. But I think it takes a lot of time for her to get to that level. But it was a fantastic encounter for both players. But I'm looking forward to seeing how Badassa, most especially, gets consistent this season and proves that last year was not just a fluke.
Well, exciting stuff's happening from the WTA tournament. It had to be Haddad Maia showing that class and dominance against a top-seeded player, Paulo Badassa. But let's move quickly to the men's category, the ATP Tour, and we move straight to Netherlands, Rotterdam. It was the ABN AMRO Open in Netherlands, and a top-seeded player, Stefanos Tsitsipas, defeated Roosevelt a massive 7-5, 6-1 win it was. It took a massive time of 1 hour 32 minutes for Tsitsipas to have this dominance. There were also wins for the likes of Felix Auger-Aliassime in this one, but come on, Hubert Hookers had to defeat Batista Ugat in this one. Decent performance from them, some of the big names showing dominance, but at the end of it, it's always going to be who gets consistent moving forward.
Definitely, Blyden. And if you want to talk about consistency, Stefanos Tsitsipas. He's won 13 games already this year, and he's lost one, and that was the Australian Open final where he lost to Novak Djokovic. Shows you quality. And then we talk about Tsitsipas, we keep talking about the fact that he's not just been able to nick it. He wins games as much as possible, but when it matters the most, he flops his lines. That has been the story over time. And then sadly, he lost the Australian Open final to Novak Djokovic, the eventual champion. But I think he's a fantastic player, and he's an impervious player. Had a fantastic encounter against this man, Emir Uzvori, and just clearly spelled out the kind of quality this man has gotten over time and the kind of energy is building in this particular season. So it was a good win for Stefanos Tsitsipas, but I'm looking forward to seeing how he gets consistent. Well, next up faces some tough opponents. I'm looking at the lineups and all of that.
We'll get to talk about that tomorrow.
Basically, there's Felix Auger-Aliassime for him just in case he qualifies for the 3rd round of the competition. But holistically, I think this man has come to stay in the ATP top 10.
Mari, let's go to Buenos Aires. At Buenos Aires, Argentina, the excitements are there. It had to be one name, Dominic Thiem, who's shown some class of dominance. Remember, last year, Dominic Thiem was coming off that injury. Had to defeat Morkan, who's seeded number 7 in the competition. Decent game is worse for Dominic Thiem, but the consistency has always been the case. These days, he's beginning to win some games. The first round, the second round. Can he go all the way, Arizona? That's the question. We've seen how he's battled out of that wrist injury that he had. And he's doing that dominance bit by bit. But can he get consistent?
But that's a question that time can only answer for us, Blyden, sadly, because Dominic Thiem, we've seen him participate in competitions before now. We've seen that energy. It brings in so much energy, so much class, and then boom, injury comes in and scatters everything.
Previously known as the Prince of Clay.
Yeah, he was. I still think he's a Prince of Clay because the records, nobody has been able to get close to that record where he was consistent on clay court tournaments across, a period of 2 years or thereabout. But sadly, it's been a sad story for him lately because he's not been able to get consistent, and then returning from a wrist problem he just handled was a fine win for him yesterday, getting his first win of the season in Argentina. But there's a lot to be expected because he's a key player, and by the standards he set for himself over time, he's expected to do a lot more. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he gets consistent, particularly not just winning the first round or second round games. You have to get consistent. That should be the conversation, Blyden.
That's the conversation. Consistency remains the conversation when it has to do with tennis game. But there were other wins for the likes of Francisco Cerundolo, who did quite well in this one, beating Huffman, massive 6-2, 4-6, 7-5 win in this one. But talking about players who are from that region, Argentina, it had to be Sebastian Baez. Quality tennis player, but hasn't made the biggest of name for himself. Had also to lose this one at home. And it speaks volume about the competition at Buenos Aires, Argentina. But we have to leave tennis and get to talk about other things. The NBA is at stake. Big stories in the world of NBA, Arizona.
Yeah,
how did he pick up this win this morning? The win between Milwaukee Bucks, having that decent win against the Boston Celtics. From a Celtic point of view, 5 top players were not available for this game.
4 starters.
Yet they took the game to overtime.
Blyden, shows you quality. We keep talking about the Celtics and how much of a properly drilled team they are. They lost 4 key players. Jalen Brown, Jason Tatum, they are 2 most important players. They also lost Al Horford and Marcus Smart. And then there was so much concerns about how they would play against a strong Milwaukee Bucks side who are chasing them down the tail in the position in the Western Conference, because it's just half a game separating both sides at the end of the day. But then look at the quality. Look at a range of fringe players who came in and dragged the games to overtime, 131 to 125, just 6 points separating both sides at the end of the day. I think this is, for me, I think the Celtics deserve more credit because, the Bucks were a complete team, no injury concern. But the Celtics lost 4 key players, 5 in total, and they still went on to drag this game to overtime, and it shows you quality. It shows you that if you properly drill a side, to rely on each other, not just 1 or 2 players, you definitely get the best out of them. And the Celtics are a clear distinction and an epitome, right, Blyden, of offensive and defensive balance. That team is clearly the best in the NBA this season.
I'll pick the word epitome there. But let's talk about more opportunities with the Celtics, especially when you look at what Joe Holiday did in this particular game.
Yeah.
Joe Holiday hit massive 40 points.
40.
And on the night, he wasn't on holiday at all. Look, for the first time, he's been drafted to join the All-Stars games.
Yeah.
After 10 years, it speaks volume about the quality he brought into the game. But you always talk about the great Nigerian.
Yeah.
Antetokounmpo, Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Definitely.
He's been that decent, hitting 36 points. And that's a combo we always talking about, that support system where two superstars are doing the magic. And they were able to get this one to the end of it.
Made a lot of sense for me, Blyden. First up, talk about Joe Holiday. Like you said, was it on holiday last night? He was walking. 40 massive points, he posted for the Bucks on the night. You would always talk about Antetokounmpo, but I think Antetokounmpo would be happy that he's got somebody that will put in that kind of number just in case he's out, or maybe to build some partnership or whatsoever. Because we keep talking about the biggest teams in the NBA having a partnership, from the Denver Nuggets, Nikola Jokic, and of course we talk about Jalen Brunson and the rest of them. There's that partnership, Jamal Murray rather. There's that partnership in every time. So for the Bucks, it's always been Antetokounmpo driving the team to the very best, but it's good to see Holiday showing that level of class and energy. I hope he gets consistent and builds a formidable partnership with Giannis Antetokounmpo. But for me, the Celtics deserve more credit for that particular game yesterday.
Well, let's talk about the Phoenix Suns and what they were able to do on the night. Quality side, but for a while we've not seen the Phoenix Suns have consistent win. But on the night, they took on the Sacramento Kings. Recent times always say Sacramento Kings seems to be only kings in Sacramento. Once in a while they get wins outside Sacramento, but on the night they lost to the Suns. Decent win for the Suns, 120-109 it ended. But a big performance, D'Aton turned up to the party, hitting 29 points for the Suns. But on the other hand, Sabonis also had some decent games for the Kings, 24 points. At the end of it, we've seen the trade deals, Arizona, between the Suns and the rest of the teams. Brooklyn Nets also. We've seen those performances. And we've not seen the big stars turn up to the party yet. Probably they've not started some of the games.
They haven't.
But here's the thing. Good win. What a way to start. Just hoping that the big stars will join them.
Permit me to use here's the thing.
Okay.
Here's the thing, Biden. Now, for the Phoenix Suns, there's this energy that comes to a team once the teammates know there's a big name in the side. They have to perform better.
Some sense of hope.
Hope, energy, optimism. For something better. The Phoenix Suns, Kevin Durant has not played yet for them, but they looked like a fantastic team yesterday. DeAndre Ayton was good. But talk about the Phoenix Suns. The man, Chris Paul, had 19 points, the second highest this season. And of course, we talk about the other man, Devin Booker, 32 massive points he posted on the night. Imagine when Kevin Durant comes into the team. They will be better.
Blockbuster performance.
I'm telling you, first of all, look at this Suns team. At some points, they went 12 games without a win. This same season. This season. But right now, they're gradually building consistency and in pole position to qualify for the playoffs, and that shows you quality. It shows you what happens when you bring in bringing key players into the side. And I'll always fault the Brooklyn Nets for letting two of their stars leave that team because they might go on a downward spiral. But kudos to the Phoenix Suns.
I remember that first day you sort of supported it.
Well, I saw
because Kevin Durant didn't leave as a den. Irving left them.
Ivan was the only one that left. I was thinking of maybe a potential partnership with Durant and Cam Thomas. But Durant saw the team and knew that, well, there's no hope for this team. He had to leave. Went to a better team who have got ambition, particularly. And that's the story. So kudos to the Phoenix Suns. And like I said, imagine if Kevin Durant comes in, partners with Devin Booker and Chris Paul. We just would be saturated with so much quality in that Phoenix Suns side. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they perform in the coming days, Blyden.
Let's talk about the Blazers.
Yeah.
The Blazers these days didn't blaze.
They trailed last night.
They trailed last night.
The day before yesterday,
they met the Wizards and they trailed.
They were blazing.
Yeah.
They didn't
against
trail.
the Hawks.
Against the Hawks. Maybe because
this time around they met the Wizards.
Well,
Wizards are strong.
The Wizards were flying.
It was a 126 point win for the Wizards against the Trailblazers, who had 101 in this one. Top performers, it had to be Porzingis, who had decent 28 points for the Wizards. But you're talking about Damian Lillard. He's been consistent, Arizona, this season. Chunking out 30-something points back to back to back. 40 points back to back to back. And if you need a player that's consistent, from my standpoint, after Tatum, then it had to be Lillard for me. On the night, hitting 39 massive points, 10 rebounds, and it speaks volume what he brings to the side.
Sadly, was a waste because the Blazers were trailing.
Absolutely.
Sadly, because I was expecting him to come good for the team. We keep talking about teams where you have just one big player. Damian Lillard is struggling at the Trailblazers because he's the only key performer. He comes in with 39 points. Right now, in the last 10 games, he's averaging 38.2 points. That's a number. If you do that for the Celtics, you catapult them to, the top position. If you do that for, say, the Milwaukee Bucks, you're moving up front. But sadly, he's doing all of that for the Trailblazers, who are not entirely a good team for me. So that's a sad story for them. But, kudos to the Wizards. Porzingis was quite fantastic, posted a lot of numbers. Kyle Kuzma, who has not been consistent, was good. 33 massive points he posted for his side on the right too. For the Trailblazers, they need to get somebody that would partner with Damian Lillard. If not so, I'd advise him to leave the team.
Well, we hope Damian Lillard wouldn't leave the team anytime soon because sometimes it helps them not to trail. They get too blessed. But let's talk about one more game. I won't dwell on it. It has to be the Golden State Warriors losing in this particular game to the LA Clippers. LA sides have had some torrid time and difficulties in games, but this particular one was a decent win for them against the Golden State Warriors. We'll draw the curtain on NBA right now. When we return, it would be football outlook all the way. The UEFA Champions League beginning from there. Kylian Mbappe coming in the 57th minute, but it didn't change anything for the side. Welcome back to Sports Central. My name is Blyden Nukem, and I still got Arizona for company. And we try to do justice to not just what's in the plate. Maybe we look for another container to describe it.
What's in the pot? Yeah, within justice.
Probably what's in the pot.
Yeah, what's in the pot. Yes, let's go with the pot.
Let's go straight to what's in the pot. It's not football first. We'll take basketball FIBA. It has to do with African qualifiers that will take them to the World Cup. From a Nigerian point of view, it's the last window of the qualifiers, window 6. The Nigerian team had not qualified yet. The last window was window 5. And they had only one win in 3 games. Now a new opportunity for the side to perform and go all out and get the win in this one. The squad has been named 19 home-based players and 2 foreign pros for Arizona. Yeah. Let's talk about it. What's happening in these qualifiers taking place in Egypt, Alexandria, and Luanda in Angola.
Yeah, it was good. It was good to see, particularly the coach of the side. The team is led by River Super's coach, and then he's been in and around the scene. Talk about basketball in the country. 21 players, 19, home-based players, and of course 2 from the away side, particularly. But the team faced a tough task in qualifying because this is the last window, the 6th window. In window 5, they won just 1 game, lost 2. And that puts their qualification hopes in a very tight corner, a very tight rope, particularly. So they would have to win all games in the 6th window. And of course, hope that the other opponents don't win much, to start a chance of qualifying. Because
there are other opponents like Senegal, Egypt.
We're talking Senegal, we're talking Egypt, Cape Verde in the list as well. Tunisia, Angola too in the list. The only team have qualified. Sudan. The only team have qualified is Ivory Coast. Of course, so who won?
So we're now looking for 2 teams to join Ivory Coast. Definitely. And the top 2 teams in the 2 groups. In the 2 groups, Group E and F would join Ivory Coast.
The best 3rd place team would also stand a chance of joining. And sadly, Nigeria are not in and around any of these requirements. Only if anything spectacular happens, sadly. But I still have high hopes for the team. I've seen the list of teams, key performers for River Supers and the rest of them. Kwara Falcons, we've got a few players in the team as well. That should make sense. But I know it's going to be a tough, task for them. But impossible, they say, Blyden, is not Nigerian.
Well, impossible is not Nigerian. Before I thought it was impossible is in Morocco.
Well, I steal it.
Now we're borrowing it. Impossible is not Nigerian. Let's hope the Nigerian basketball team will do magic moving forward in Alexandria, Egypt, as well as Luanda in Angola. But away from basketball, let's look at football story. What's happening with this side when it has to do with the Super Falcons? It's the Revelation Cup. And they take on Mexico, the host, in the Revelation Cup. Yeah. Quickly, Arizona, let's talk on that. Super Falcons taking on Mexico in the Revelations Cup. Yeah, what are the expectations so far?
Well, basically get to win the start of a preparatory competition for the Super Falcons of Nigeria. We've had these conversations time and time again before today.
We've talked about
basically Mexico, Colombia, Costa Rica, the 3 teams will be facing in this competition. So it will act as good preparation for not just Nigeria, but also the other 3 teams, because they're all qualified for the World Cup. There's also a chance for a last-minute preparation for the Falcons when they travel to Turkey for another invitational competition. So I see all of these games as a tune-up game, a dress rehearsal for what the Super Falcons to be expected at the World Cup. They faced off opponents in Australia, talking about, teams like Canada and Ireland. So they have to prepare in the best way possible to get themselves over the line at the World Cup.
Well, let's talk about events yesterday. What happened in the UEFA Champions League was a big one in France, Paris. A name, Kingsley Coman, scored a massive first goal for the away team Bayern Munich in the 53 minute. But a concern from a Paris Saint-Germain point of view was one man, Kylian Mbappe. They rushed him back from injury. He was supposed to be out for 3 weeks, but he came back just to meet this match. But it didn't change anything. Though the sparkle when Mbappe joined the team, Neymar, Messi couldn't do anything in this particular game, Arizona. Yeah. And it's a daunting task for them going to Allianz Arena in the next game, March 8th, to get a result.
Really sad for PSG, more like a deja vu for them. 3 years ago, same opponent, same goal scorer for Bayern Munich and all of that. But I think PSG have learned the lessons the hard way. Football is not just about bringing the biggest players. You have to have a system that will help these players work, particularly. They played the 4-4-2 flat yesterday, and I saw no reason why you play that kind of formation against Bayern Munich, who run you over. And then, kudos to the tactical acumen of the man, Nagelsmann, played a 3-4-3 formation, put runners in the team, as much as possible. Joe Cancelo, Leroy Sané, Alphonso Davies was there, and of course the goal scorer, Kingsley Coman. They were running, and they made life difficult for, PSG to hold the ball down. And that was where they had them, particularly. So it's quite sad that we're saying, a quality side of PSG not getting wins particularly, so it's sad. But I think Bayern Munich deserved the win yesterday, because for me they were the better team on the night.
PSG was a fit loss this season, and comparatively to last season, 2022 year calendar, they lost only 4 games. It speaks volume about the concerns in the team at the moment moving forward. But there was a bit of a sparkle when Mbappe came in, and you look at it, first question would be, is the team not depending too much on Mbappe? Sadly,
that's the story. And I feel very sad because, one, you have Lionel Messi in that team, but you're not playing to his strength. You have Neymar in that team, you're not playing to his strength. And then, you have to, I think it's about the coach. Garcia has not been able to find a proper system that works with these players. Kylian Mbappe, yes, he's got energy, but he cannot just be the only key performer for them every time.
Because the same story last season.
Definitely.
Mbappe was scoring goals, they were conceding, lost to Real Madrid at that stage of the competition.
That's the story. So you have to find a system that works for you, and that's the story. And Christophe Gatlia has got a lot of work to do, for that PSG team if he wants to get them over the line. But for me, I think they're a long way off becoming a championship team so far.
Well, talking about still the Champions League and what happened in the Champions League, we'll also look at the other game in Milan, the San Siro Stadium. Diaz had a decent goal for AC Milan 7 minutes into the game, making it difficult for that opponent to make that comeback. But at the end of it, the concerns are always going to be there for Tottenham Hotspur. Injuries plaguing the team, but some of the key young stars, Arizona, did show some class. Talking about Papesa in this one, and Skip.
Oliver Skip,
The coach came out to give them some praise. But no matter how you perform, when you lose a game, a daunting task moving forward in the next.
Definitely, no matter how you perform, once you lose, you've lost particularly. And sadly, it was an early goal. I think Tottenham just could not get themselves back on track and maybe get an equalizer. It was a good game for the youngsters, Pape Matissa and Oliver Skip. They had to fill in the big shoes of Bentancur and Højbjerg. And for me, they did a fantastic job. But creativity was once again lacking at that Tottenham Hotspur team. They have no source of creativity. And that's a problem. That's what we've been talking about for them over time, because you've got attackers, Harry Kane, Kulusevski, Son Heung-min. But who fits them? That's a big question. So Harry Kane will have to, not Harry Kane, Conte rather, would have to solve the problem of creativity, because they have no creative hub. That's the problem of that team. But kudos to AC Milan, they were also struggling, but they went in. Brahim Diaz, a former Manchester City youngster, got a goal, and that was the story. So looking forward to seeing how the second leg plays out for not just PSG and Bayern Munich, but AC Milan and Tottenham Hotspur. Blyden.
The big one will be today's game. Let's see what happens today. It has to be Chelsea going away to Dortmund. Difficult game from all standpoints. Big question would be who turns up for Chelsea these days. The Dortmund coach has come out to say he's not sure of which Chelsea side will come out today. Amid all the buys that Chelsea has, let's look at other fixtures. It will be Club Brugge at home in Belgium against Benfica, Arizona. Let's start with Chelsea. Look at what's happening with Chelsea. Recent form, terrible. But many people say you don't know which Chelsea would turn up. Maybe at the Champions League, they could be quite a decent side. But for Dortmund side, this year, they've had a decent run in 2023. Last year was a little here, a little there for them. But 2023 has been solid. 6 massive wins for them, and it speaks volume of encounter we're having in Dortmund.
Chelsea also beaten in the Champions League since Graham Potter came in.
I'm talking about domestic league.
But that also counts particularly. But looking forward to seeing the games. Chelsea sadly have not been the best of teams lately in the Premier League, sadly, and then this is also a talk of the quality that they've been particularly, and then they've brought in so many players, but they've not just been able to galvanize. I'm also looking forward to seeing how the new inclusions get it, because Aubameyang has been taken off. There's Enzo Fernandez, Mikhailo Modric.
So no striker now for Chelsea.
Felix. Yeah, no striker actually. So I want to see how
outright striker.
Yeah, also I want to see how Potter outlines the team and what he makes of the quality in his Arsenal. But Dortmund are no pushover. So seeing them, like you said, unbeaten in this particular year. They've got the return of the man Sebastian Haller, who understands how to play against Chelsea. He was at West Ham. So he's played against Chelsea before, so not entirely a new story for him.
Good to have Sebastian Haller back after going through that testicular concerns.
His comeback has been massive, good story to see, and he's already scored since his comeback. That makes a lot of sense for me. So, and then this Dortmund team paraded by young stars who can run you over, run you off at 90 minutes. I mean, this game is going to be quite exciting.
Chelsea midfield, big concern for many. Enzo Fernandez has come in to the team, but who's he going to pair with in the midfield? That's another concern, and it could be a difficult moment for them against a routing Dortmund side. But let's look at the next story or the next game that will take place. It has to be Club Brugge taking on Benfica. The interesting part about Club Brugge has been the new coach they had at the eve of the new year. Scott Parker from Fulham, an Englishman,
was sacked by Bournemouth, and all of that. Came to Brugge, he's been in the Champions League. But for Benfica, well, might be here and there for Benfica, because one key man who was key for them in the Champions League group stages was Enzo Fernandez. He's now left, to join Chelsea. So that might be a major miss for them later this particular night. But it's good to see Scott Parker back in the dugout for the Champions League. I'd love to see what he makes of this Club Brugge team. But for me, I think that game is going to be as exciting as the Chelsea-Dortmund game.
Well, 1 minute. Wouldn't be good not to talk about the big match in the English Premier League that's taking place this evening. Arsenal versus Manchester City. The caution between the two is just 3 points different. If Man City gets to beat Arsenal today, Man City goes on top of the log ahead of Arsenal. Marizona, in 1 minute, just talk about this particular game.
1 minute is a little too short.
Enough.
I'll try.
Enough of the talking. Let's do the talking on the field of play. Arsenal these days have talked about that Brentford game all week. Now let's do the job on the field of play. Who gets to beat who in this one?
Sadly, Arsenal walk in a tightrope because they're coming on the back of poor form. Drop points into back-to-back games against Everton and against Brentford. But for City, they're flying high right now, and they're already looking at the chance of getting to that top of the table. And we know what happens when City gets to the table. They can't come down again. So I think Arsenal would have to bring out their best game today, because this will be a true test of the quality and if they're champions quality. But for me, I think the game is going to be exciting. It's going to be the master against the apprentice. But
who wins it?
I would love Arsenal to win, because I'd love them to get...
Who wins it, Mari?
Well,
scoreline.
Well, Arsenal gets to win this game by 2-1.
Club Brugge, Benfica.
Club Brugge, Benfica. I think it's going to be a Benfica win, 2-1.
Dortmund, Chelsea.
Well, I have a soft spot for Chelsea, sadly, so I'd love them to get this win, travel away from home and get a 2-0 victory against Dortmund.
2-0 victory against Dortmund. Many people would say, what's Mari talking about?
Well,
Chelsea have not been decent. But this is where we draw the curtain on today's edition of Sports Central. Thank you for watching. Marizona, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much, Blyden.
We'll do it tomorrow.
Definitely.
We'll talk more about details of this
We go harder tomorrow.
Thank you for watching.